Long before the glitz and glamour of the Super Bowl, pro football had a much more down-to-earth approach to determine its annual champion. It was a seemingly more simple way. Just let two teams play at season's end on one of their home fields for the right to be named the best. This special will attempt to look back at that coveted history. It's called Simply the Best, Pro Football Championship History from 1920 to 1965. The NFL began in 1920 under the name American Professional Football Association. It would become the National Football League in 1922. From 1920 to 1923, the league champion was not decided by playoffs or even win-loss records. It was by a vote of league owners at a meeting the following February. The first champion was the Akron Pros, led by L.G. Tobin and the first African-American head coach, Fritz Pollard. Here's Pollard's memories versus the legendary Jim Thorpe of the Canton, Ohio Bulldogs.
Actually, I had heard about the great Jim Thorpe and whatnot, but I imagine he had heard about the great Fritz Pollard, because I had a name at that time, too. And Jim said, "Hello, little black boy." I said, "Hello, big black boy." I said, "Well, we're going to play against each other. We'll find out who's going to be the blackest after this game."
In 1921, the Chicago Staleys, better known as the Chicago Bears, were champs under league founder and head coach George Halas, followed by the Canton, Ohio Bulldogs under coach Guy Chamberlain from 1922 to 1924. In 1924, the rules changed where the official season would be played from September 27th through November 30th, and the team with the best winning percentage with a minimum number of games played would be the winner, and a game ending in a tie would not count in the standings. From 1920 to 1932, it was not uncommon for NFL teams to schedule each other on a week-by-week basis. Another common aspect that would be strange by today's standards was some teams going out of business during a season and new teams popping up after opening day. As a result, the number of games played by each team ranged anywhere from 2 to 14. Since some clubs struggled financially more than others, often said clubs would play exhibition games during the season against non-NFL teams, which would not count in the standings. An unusual situation occurred in 1925. The Pottsville Maroons saw a golden chance to make extra money against a group of former Notre Dame Rodney players. Pottsville officials thought a bigger stadium was needed, so they used another stadium in nearby Philadelphia. The game was a huge financial success. However, one problem surfaced later. Philadelphia was the territory of the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, later renamed the Philadelphia Eagles. Frankfurt complained to the NFL about Pottsville crossing into their territory without permission first. The league ruled Pottsville violated said trust, and at the end of the season were not awarded the 1925 championship. That went to second place Chicago Cardinals. A protest against that decision continues to this day by relatives of one-time Pottsville members. The 1926 championship went to Guy Chamberlain again, this time as coach of the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. The New York Giants won their first title in 1927. The Providence Steamroller won their only title in 1928. Then the Green Bay Packers won 3 straight titles under coach Curly Lambeau and star end Don Hudson. Controversy came up in 1932 when the Chicago Bears and Portsmouth, Ohio Spartans, later known as the Detroit Lions, finished the season with the same winning percentage. The league decided a first-ever playoff game would be played to determine the champion. Scheduled to be played on December the 18th in Chicago, a huge snowstorm forced the game indoors to Chicago Stadium on a dirt floor normally used for rodeos. The field was only 80 yards long, 60 yards between the goal lines with 10-yard end zones, and was only 45 yards wide. No goalposts were used either. A special rule was adapted for this game. If the ball carrier was tackled within 5 yards of the sideline, which was about a foot from the barrier wall, then the ball would be moved to the center of the field for the next play. As a result, for the next season, hash marks were created. The Bears won the game 9-0 and changed championship football forever. However, controversy came for the Spartans felt Bronco Nagurski did not throw the Bears' only touchdown pass the required 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Here's Spartan star player Glenn Presnell.
He wasn't anywhere near 5 yards back of the line of scrimmage, which was the rule in those days. You had to be back 5 yards. They won the game 9-0. It was an interesting game.
And the comments from Bear star Red Grange.
Bronk threw the touchdown pass to me. I was laying on my back in the end zone, and Bronk threw me an end-over-end pass. That was his best pass.
1933 saw the NFL weed out its less stable franchises, and the remaining teams were placed in either the Eastern or Western conferences. The new format would have the teams with the best overall win-loss records from each conference play each other in an annual championship game, and the game site would rotate back and forth. 1 year at Western site, the next year at Eastern site. The 33 champ was the Bears, beating the Giants 23-21. Some felt it was the most exciting championship game as the lead changed hands 6 times. The 1934 rematch belonged to the hometown Giants, 30-13 under coach Steve Owen. The way the Giants won had a lot to do with their shoes. If you don't know the story, then listen to Wellington Mara, son of Giants founder Tim Mara.
It had gotten extremely cold the night before, and early on the Sunday morning of the game, Ray Flaherty, who was our assistant coach and also our captain and right end, called Steve Owen on the telephone to discuss the possible condition of the field. And they both agreed that the field would obviously be frozen. Ray Flaherty, who had played at Gonzaga University in Spokane, remarked to Steve that one time when he was in college, they had won a game on a frozen field by wearing basketball shoes. So Steve Owen called my father, and they agreed that they should try to get as many basketball shoes as possible. The problem was that it was a Sunday. There was no way of getting anyone to open the stores. And we reported to the Polo Grounds dressing room, and the players had gone on the field and said that it was almost impossible to stand up. At that time, our assistant trainers were Gus Morch and Charlie Porter. Being members of the Manhattan entourage, they also used to have with them Abe Cohen. Now, Abe was a tailor. Abe used to come to our games and help out in the dressing room. And he volunteered that he would get a taxi cab, go up to Manhattan College and break into the lockers in the locker room to get the basketball shoes of the basketball team. So just as the teams went on the field for the opening kickoff, Abe jumped into a cab and went up to Manhattan College. In the first half, the Bears had pretty much the upper hand over us. At halftime, they led 13-3. Players came back into the dressing room at halftime, and Abe had just arrived with the basketball shoes. Ed Danowski did not put any on immediately. He was our quarterback, and he went out for the second half in the cleats. About the end of the third period, Danowski became convinced that he should change to the basketball shoes, and I remember that one of the Bears came out of the game and reported to Coach Hallis that they were wearing basketball shoes, and Hallis' reply was, "Step on their toes."
The remaining champions of the 1930s included 1935, Detroit Lions 26-7 over New York. 1936, Green Bay 21-6 over the Boston Redskins. 1937, Washington Redskins 28-21 over Chicago Bears. 1938, New York 23-17 over Green Bay. 1939, Green Bay 27-0 over New York. The 1940 championship pitted the Bears at Washington. 3 weeks earlier, the Redskins won 7-3. The Bears would unleash a ferocious defense in the postseason contest, along with the revolutionary T formation on offense, designed by offensive coordinator Mark Shaughnessy, in a rout 73-0. Here's Bears quarterback Sid Luckman with his memories.
Well, after the game, when they had beaten the 7-3, all the boys in our squad vowed that they would win the remaining games on their schedule, and we hoped that the Redskins would win the remaining games on their schedule. Well, we won the Western Division, they won the Eastern Division, and we met in Washington. Headlines in the Washington papers, glaring headlines, stating that the Chicago Bears were front-runners and individual stars. We walked out on the football field, and there was a look, a determined look in everybody's eye. A look I had never seen before in any football squad that I ever had played on or I participated with. I'll never forget. The game started. George McAfee opened up the game with a 10-yard gain. Osmanski then went around the end. For 68 yards to be exact. From that moment on, it was just a sheer marvel the way our team played and the way they acted. 7-0. Sammy Bull will march right down the field. And we threw a touchdown pass, or would have been a touchdown pass to Malone, and Malone dropped the ball. When the game was over, Sammy Bull was asked, what would the score have been if Malone had caught the pass? And Bull, being a great competitor and wonderful athlete, stated to the newspaper men, it would have been 73-7, because there wasn't anything that was going to defeat a perfect football team.
During this era, if two teams finished the season tied for first place within a conference, then an extra playoff game would decide the conference champ. This was first utilized in 1941 when the Bears defeated Green Bay 33-14 in a Western Conference contest. Odds were both teams weren't totally thinking about the game because a week earlier this stunning announcement was made on radio by John Charles Daly.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu.
The 1941 title would go to the Bears 37-9 over the Giants. In 42, Coach Ray Flaherty and quarterback Sammy Baugh led the Redskins to their second title 14-6 over the Bears. 1943 had the Redskins defeating the Giants 28-0 in an Eastern Conference tiebreaker before losing to the Bears 41-21 in the next week's title game. 1944 had the Packers returning to glory 14-7 over New York. 1945 saw the Cleveland Rams under coach Adam Walsh squeak out a win over the Redskins 15-14 in what was called the Hay Game, because in a failed attempt to keep the damp field from freezing the night before, countless bales of hay were spread all over Municipal Stadium. Much of the hay wound up sticking to the field surface. The play that ended up giving the Rams the win was in the first quarter. Redskins quarterback Sammy Baugh attempted to throw a pass from his own end zone, only to have the pass hit the back of the goalpost, then on the goal line, and land in the end zone, which at the time was a safety. The rule would be changed the next season to an incomplete pass. The remainder of the 1940s went as follows. 1946, Chicago Bears over New York, 24-14. 1947, Eastern Conference playoff, Eagles over Steelers, 21-0. The 47 League Championship, Cardinals over Eagles, 28-21. 1948, Eagles 7, Cardinals nothing. 1949, Eagles 14, Rams nothing. The Eagles were led by coach Greasy Neal and running back Steve Van Buren. 1950 saw both conferences having playoff games. The Western Conference, LA Rams 24, Bears 14. Eastern Conference, Cleveland Browns 8, Giants 3. The championship matchup had the Browns, a new member of the NFL, having won all 4 All-American Football Conference championships, hosting the former Cleveland team, the Rams. Here's how the first 2 plays sounded on radio.
Bob Kelly speaking to you directly from Municipal Stadium in Cleveland. And here's Lou Groza kicking off at the high with a short spinning kick. P.T. Smith waiting for it, takes it from the Rams 5-yard line. Cuts to his left at the 10. He's being chased and retreats a little bit back to the 9. Gets away at the 15. Skirts the sideline, forced out of bounds just short of the 20-yard line. Making about the 18 where it'll be the Rams ball first and 10. So here's the Rams offensive lineman. Waterfield's in the quarterback. Glenn Davis, left half. P.T. Smith at right half. They corner it full. First and 10. Right halfback. Smith, a motion to the right. Waterfield fades back to pass. Fades way back to his 8. Looks once. Goes long. Davis is out in front. Catches on the 50. I believe he's going to score a touchdown. The 35 to 30. The 25 to 20. The 15 to 10 to 5. And he's over in the Rams run 6-0. What do you know about that? On the first play of scrimmage of the ball game.
In the end, Cleveland won 30-28 on a Lou Groza field goal. Here's Coach Paul Brown's comments on the great kicker.
Bill, I think if I had to give you a guy that embodied as much as I value in a pro football player as anybody I know of, I'd say he did. It's obvious he couldn't give it up, even when he probably should have been away from it. He loved it. It was fun to him, a pleasure. This game throws a chill to some people when they get to play. They like the money and all that goes with it, but the other part, old Louis enjoyed it. He liked being around the fellas, and this was his life, and I understand these kind of people.
Now here's the closing moments as retold by former Browns announcer Bob Neal.
First and 10 on the 22. 50 seconds remain. Graham passing to Bumgardner. Can Rex get it? He's out there. He's got it. Out of bounds at about the 11. The clock stops again. 45 seconds left. Here's Otto Graham trying to set up a field goal. Possibility moving the ball in the sneak. Less than 30 seconds remaining. Browns on the 16-yard line.
back in 1951 at Los Angeles as Tom Fierce caught the winning touchdown pass, as told by announcer Harry Wismer.
The play of the day, and possibly the play of the year in postgraduate football. Norman Van Brockman goes back, arches a long, fine, high, spiraling pass far downfield. Tom Fierce makes a great catch on the dead run and goes all the way to score for Los Angeles. A 72-yard touchdown play. Rams 23, Browns 17. The extra point, waiting for the snap. The ball's in the ground. The kick is through the upright. Los Angeles 24, Cleveland 17.
This gave Coach Joe Stidehar the title over the legendary Paul Brown. It was also the first NFL championship game on national TV, carried by the Dumont Network. Cleveland appeared in the next 4 championship games. In 1952, Detroit beat L.A. in the Western Conference playoff 31-21 before downing the Browns 17-7, giving Coach Buddy Parker a title. In 1953, Detroit repeated over Cleveland 17-16. 1954 proved to be the Browns' year with a lopsided 56-10 win over the Lions, and in 1955, Cleveland handed it to the Rams 38-14. The Browns' dominance stopped there as the New York Giants started one of their own most famous eras in 1956 with a 47-7 win over the Bears under coach Jim Lee Howell. 1957's Western Conference playoff was much more interesting than the championship game. The San Francisco 49ers had a 24-7 halftime lead in their home park over Detroit, who was without quarterback Bobby Lane. Here's Detroit's star, Jack Christensen.
School was so confident that they were going to win the ball game that I think that they brought champagne to the locker room. And the 2 locker rooms in Old Kezar Stadium were just about 10 feet apart, the doors where you went into locker rooms. And naturally, if I was ahead on a team 24-7, I think we'd be celebrating. And I think that's what San Francisco was doing. And I think that we heard a little bit of the celebration and then found out later from some of the players that they weren't drinking the champagne, naturally, but they were very confident they were going to be opening the champagne and that their wives had already spent the championship money for fur coats and houses and cars and so on.
After a long run by Hugh McElhaney set up a field goal, it was 27-7 early in the third quarter. Detroit would come back, scoring 24 unanswered points in a 31-27 win. 49ers coach Frankie Albert remembered the outcome very well in this interview many years afterwards.
I suppose we were happy as could be at 24-7 to be leading, and Christensen probably heard that and figured that we thought the game was over. And the follow-up tragedy, we didn't know at the time. The Browns that year had a weaker ball club than Paul Brown usually had. And Detroit beat them like 56 with Bobby Lane, 56-14 or something. So had we gotten in 1957, if we'd gotten in there, we could, had a good chance to beat the Brownies and win it all. But it had to be the most quiet damn locker room you'd ever find. What can guys say when you lose? Everybody feels lousy. Everybody loves the winner in this game, and nobody, fan, coach, players, nobody can tolerate a loser. Every Sunday, half the team's playing lose. It's crazy.
Detroit would go on to win the championship 59-14 over the Browns. 1958 saw the Giants defeating Cleveland 10-0 in an Eastern Conference playoff game, which would set up what many people consider the greatest game ever played. On a balmy late December day at Yankee Stadium, the Giants hosted the Baltimore Colts for the title. In a game filled with passion and determination by both clubs, a back-and-forth battle came to an end in regulation as the Colts would drive down the field to set up the tying field goal.
We're down the last 1 minute and 5 seconds. It's 1st and 10, the ball at the 50-yard line. And when time comes in, this will be the most important minute of the season for the Baltimore Colts and these New York Giants. The Colts back huddling. Come out of the huddle. Up over the line of scrimmage. 1st and 10 at the 50-yard line. Berry is wide to the left. Moore wide to the right. Unitas calling signals. Johnny looks over the defense. Unitas fakes the pitch out, throws to Berry, complete, and Berry is brought down from behind after picking up a first down. He's directly in the center of the field. The ball's in the Giants' 35-yard line. There are 40 seconds left to play. The ball in the Giants' 35, first and 10. Unitas back to pass. He throws. It is complete to Berry. Berry to the 10, the 5. Berry's down. The ball is spotted at the 7-yard line. Check that distance there. At the 13-yard line, make it for the New York Giants. 20 seconds left to go. The ball's on the 13-yard line. Myra will attempt a field goal. Just 10 seconds left to go. Myra will attempt the field goal from the 20-yard line. 5, here's the boot. It is high. It is good. He makes it. Myra makes it with seconds left to go. Ties the ball game 17-17. How about that?
For the first time in league history, a sudden death overtime period was played to determine a winner. The Colts would eventually prevail.
The ball now is on the New York Giants 44-yard line. First and 10 to go for the Colts. Unitas this time gives to Amici, finds a big hole in the center. Amici rams his way forward, deep into payoff territory. Brought down by Patton on a quick opening play, a fake to Dupree. Down the middle run by Alan Amici. And they're now within a hailing distance of a field goal. The ball's on the 20-yard line of the New York Giants. The ball's on the 20-yard line. Over on the sideline, Steve Myra is flexing his leg muscles up and down. You can see him swinging that leg to and fro. Unitas throws to Berry, who makes a diving catch of the ball at the 5 and is in there. The official says it's first and goal to go. The official says that as he went down to his knees, he took the ball at the 7-yard line, or the 8-yard line, make it. So it's first and goal to go at the 8-yard line, and a diving catch by Ray Berry. First down coming up. 8 yards to go for the score. Unitas calling the signals there. Johnny looks over the defense. Hands up to Amici. Amici rams his way off the right side. Brought down after picking up a few yards off the right side. Coming in for that tackle was Huff once again, Mo Zaleski, and Cat Cabbage. Baltimore Colts back in the huddle. 2nd and 6 to go for the championship for the Baltimore Colts. Out of the huddle they come. Up over the ball come the Baltimore Colts. Unitas calling out the signals. Jump. He passes. Let's see if Mutchler got that ball and went out of bounds. It's 3rd and 1 yard to go for the championship. 3rd and 1 to go for the championship. A pass to Mutchler, put the ball on the 1-yard line. Barking out the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
1959 would have Baltimore under head coach Weave Eubank repeating in their home stadium 31-16 over the Giants. 1960 was the Eagles' year and a 17-13 win over the Packers. It would be the last game for Eagles legend Chuck Bednarik, playing both ways. The Packers tried to come back late, needing a touchdown to win, but ran out of time, as longtime Eagles announcer Bill Campbell remembers.
8 seconds to go. Just one play to go. 3rd and 2 from the 22. Star to Taylor. He could go. He's at the 10-yard line. Stopped by Bednarik on the 8, who sits on him and waits for the seconds to tick off. There it is. The Eagles led it. Chuck Bednarik, number 60, who played both ways today and played his entire college career here at Franklin Field. Stops Taylor. The Eagles win it. The team nobody thought could win the title.
1961 had Vince Lombardi winning his first NFL title over the Giants, 37-0. Ironically, Lombardi previously served as a Giants assistant coach alongside future Dallas head coach Tom Landry. Longtime Packer Jim Taylor remembers those Lombardi years very well.
Well, he had, been an assistant, and they had been relatively successful with the New York Giants. They played in championship games and things, and he had been around high school coaching, college coaching, and at a professional level, and he, I think, knew what he wanted to do, and he came into to Green Bay and set up his program to bring a championship football, and that was in the 2nd year that we won a championship, and from there we went on to play many championship games and even the first Super Bowl game.
Green Green Bay would repeat in 1962, 16-7 over the Giants. 1963 had the Bears returning to glory over the Giants 14-10 in a tough defensive game, which will forever be known as the last hurrah for Giants quarterback Y.A. Tittle, who is most remembered for having a bloody face and throwing 5 interceptions. The temperature didn't help. Game time readings were 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's Giants defender Sam Huff's memories.
I went to Y.A. and I said, look, you got us 3 points. We're leading 10-7. That's all we need. The Bears can't beat us. Stay out. We'll win the championship for you. They taped him up, put him in the game, hurt. He turned the ball over again on screen passes, and we lost the game 14-10.
Y.A. Tittle also remembers.
63 championship game, I think, was my biggest disappointment because, in my personal opinion, and I know that a lot of Chicago Bears may be listening to me say this, but I felt we had the best team that year.
1964 brought the Browns back to the championship peak with a 27-0 win over Baltimore. This Browns season was led by Coach Blanton Collier, who developed the option blocking style of offense and was quite a player's coach. Former Browns player Walter Flea Roberts remembers that championship.
Oh, that was great. I mean, that was like a dream come true. I grew up, sneaking in the Coliseum watching the Cleveland Browns play the Rams. So I remember guys like Marion Motley, Bob Gay, Otto Graham, all those old-timers, Dante Lavelli. So I grew up right there. Then later on watching Bobby Mitchell and Jimmy Brown. So, hey, that was like dream come true for me.
Roberts' teammate, Bill Glass, talks about that memorable day.
Everybody was picking us to lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but we never felt that way. And Blanton Collier never allowed us to feel that way. And Paul Brown will probably go down as a greater coach in history than Blanton Collier. And yet, I think Paul Brown couldn't have taken that ball club because that ball club was very individualistic, highly intelligent, well-educated. Blanton Collier fit with a team like that better because he allowed the players to think for themselves.
1965 had the Colts facing the Packers in a Western Conference playoff game. The Colts were shorthanded at quarterback, so running back Tom Matty had to play quarterback with a playlist taped to his forearm. In controversial fashion, the Packers tied the game late in regulation 10-10 on a Don Chandler field goal, which many observers swore didn't go between the uprights, as Jackie Burkett of Colts fame remembers.
As a matter of fact, Don Chandler got the benefit of a bad call, and we got the brunt of it because Don Chandler turned around and kicked the ground after he hit the ball because he knew he'd missed it, and then they called it good.
As a result, the league ordered all ballparks to lengthen their uprights 10 feet the next season. Chandler would win the game in overtime on a 25-yard field goal, 13-10. The Packers got the title back the following week in a 23-12 win over Cleveland. Once again, Flea Roberts.
Yeah, see, we trained the time we got there in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is about 30 miles outside of Green Bay. And we gave ourselves about 2.5 hours to go 30 miles. The bus ran off the road twice.
Now, I take it...
Off the road in the sleet and ice. They had to pull us back on the road.
Wow.
So we got there, and we were a little pushed for time. That wasn't a good deal for us.
Then Cleveland rookie Jim Garcia also remembers that very cold day.
And they had a tremendous snowstorm, and the field was just in terrible shape. And typical Green Bay playoff situation. We've all seen it on TV, and that was just one of those typical Green Bay January days.
A lot of exciting football was also being played in the 1960s by the upstart American Football League. In 1960 and 61, the Houston Oilers under veteran quarterback George Blanda and top pick Billy Cannon won the AFL title over the L.A. Chargers 24-16 in 1960 and 10-3 over the relocated San Diego Chargers in 1961. The most exciting AFL championship game of all time was in 1962, as Hank Stram's Dallas Texans defeated the Oilers 20-17 in double overtime. At the start of overtime, Abner Hayes called the coin toss for Dallas, but misunderstood Coach Stram's instructions as ABC's Jack Buck picks up the action.
While the coin's in there, and call it loudly now. Yeah. Call it. It's head. Now, Dallas won the toss. You have your choice, of course, receiving or kicking. Who will keep to the clock? You're going to kick. Good. To the clock. Right. Now, Dallas won the toss.
Well, I tell you, over on that Dallas bench, they're going wild, Kurt. They
none is going to pay off. We're going to have to wait and see. It's yours, Kurt.
Kicking against the wind.
While Strand was caught off guard, he didn't let Haynes' announcement affect his team, as both squads played to a stalemate in the first overtime period. In the end, Dallas kicker Tommy Brooker decided the Texans' victory.
17-17. Crossing the hole in the 24. And watch it. The big rush is on. The kick is up. The kick is good. Dallas is the champion. Dallas wins it on a 24-yard field goal by Tommy Brooker. They had to go into the second overtime period to win it.
We're here in the playing field, as you know, and here's Hank Stram, the coach of the now champion Dallas Texans. And Hank, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jack. It's a great thrill, and I just can't compliment this squad enough to see the way they came back, to stay in the ball game in the second half like they did, and finally came back and won it. It was a great tribute, I think, to our squad, and we're just as proud as can we that we can win the championship and bring it back to Dallas, Texas.
1963 saw the Boston Patriots qualify for the championship after defeating Buffalo in an Eastern Conference tiebreaker 26-8. However, San Diego had the last laugh as running back Keith Lincoln ran all over Boston in a 51-10 rout. 1964 and 65 were the Buffalo Bills' title years, with both wins over the Chargers, 20-7 in 1964, 23-0 in 1965. The 1964 contest was more memorable for San Diego, had an early lead in the first half. But momentum drastically changed when Chargers' Keith Lincoln tried to catch a pass out of the backfield. He was met by Bills linebacker Mike Stratton, wound up breaking some ribs, never returned to the game, and the Bills took control from there. Here's Keith Lincoln.
Rush is getting on Tobin, and it's almost the way through it out of the park. It was almost like throwing a snowball down the chimney. It's something I don't like to talk about. I mean, it was a rather painful experience for me. Yeah, I still have number 56 embedded right here on my chest.
Stratton also recalls the following.
I was fortunate enough to get there about the same time that the ball got there, and Keith was not in the best position to receive me.
Yes, indeed. Before there was a Super Bowl, starting with the 66 regular season, pro football had a lot of exciting championship action. To those many men of this era, we say thank you, for without your hard work, the Super Bowl wouldn't exist today. This is an era of gridiron action that shouldn't be forgotten, and we hope this special does some justice to the NFL forefathers.